There is one mistake that quietly destroys more lives than bad luck, lack of money, or even failure itself. It is not weakness. It is not intelligence. It is not education. It is the inability to recognize your own foolish patterns before they become your identity. Every person believes they are making reasonable decisions, yet history is filled with people who lost everything while being completely convinced they were right. That is what makes foolishness so dangerous. It rarely announces itself. It hides behind confidence, pride, excuses, and emotion. A wise person questions their own thinking. A foolish person questions everyone else's. The difference between growth and destruction often begins with a single habit of self-awareness. If someone cannot examine their own behavior honestly, they become trapped inside a version of reality that only exists in their own mind. They mistake stubbornness for strength, arrogance for confidence, and impulsive reactions for authenticity. The tragedy is that the consequences never arrive immediately. Foolish decisions often feel rewarding in the beginning, but painful in the end. Wise decisions often feel difficult in the beginning, but rewarding in the end. Life quietly keeps score while people convince themselves they are winning. One of the clearest signs of foolishness is the constant need to prove superiority. Truly confident people rarely waste energy convincing others of their value because their actions already speak louder than their words. A foolish mind, however, becomes addicted to validation. Every conversation becomes a competition. Every disagreement becomes a battle that must be won. Every achievement becomes something to display rather than something to build upon. This endless need to appear important creates insecurity instead of respect, because genuine confidence never needs applause. When someone cannot tolerate being corrected, interrupted, or challenged, it reveals that their ego is protecting something fragile. Intelligence grows stronger through correction, but foolishness sees correction as humiliation. Instead of asking, "Could I be wrong?" the foolish mind immediately asks, "How do I defend myself?" That single difference determines whether someone continues evolving or remains trapped in the same patterns for decades. Another powerful sign is refusing to learn from experience. Everyone makes mistakes. That is part of being human. Wisdom does not come from avoiding mistakes. It comes from recognizing them quickly and changing direction. Foolishness repeats the same painful cycle while expecting different outcomes. Relationships fail for the same reasons. Financial problems repeat themselves. Friendships disappear. Opportunities vanish. Yet, instead of looking inward, blame is scattered everywhere else. Circumstances become the villain. Other people become the problem. Society becomes the excuse. Personal responsibility quietly disappears. Every repeated lesson that goes ignored becomes a heavier burden in the future. Life is an excellent teacher, but only for those willing to listen. Another unmistakable pattern appears in emotional impulsiveness. A foolish person allows temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Anger speaks before understanding. Pride refuses apology. Jealousy invents stories that have no evidence. Fear prevents opportunities from being explored. Excitement creates promises that cannot be kept. Emotions are powerful servants but terrible masters. Wise individuals feel deeply without allowing every feeling to control every action. They recognize that emotions are information, not instructions. A foolish mind believes every emotion deserves immediate expression. As a result, relationships become unstable, careers become inconsistent, and trust slowly disappears because people never know which version of that person they will encounter. Another sign hides inside the inability to listen. Listening is one of the rarest skills in modern life because most people are preparing their next response instead of understanding the current conversation. Foolishness interrupts, it assumes, it finishes sentences, it believes it already knows everything worth hearing. Yet every meaningful lesson requires silence before understanding. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the wisest. Those who constantly dominate conversations often miss the information capable of changing their lives. Real listening requires humility because it admits someone else may know something valuable. That simple act transforms ordinary conversations into opportunities for growth. Another dangerous pattern is chasing appearances while neglecting substance. Many people spend more energy looking successful than becoming successful. They carefully manage impressions while ignoring character. They buy symbols of achievement before building genuine achievement. They seek admiration instead of mastery. This creates a fragile identity dependent upon external approval. When admiration disappears, confidence collapses because it was never built internally. Wisdom focuses on becoming before appearing. Character survives criticism because it is rooted in reality, while image crumbles under pressure because it depends entirely upon perception. Another clear sign is refusing accountability. Every failure immediately becomes someone else's fault. Every disappointment requires a new excuse. Accountability feels uncomfortable because it demands honesty, but it also provides freedom because it restores control. If every problem belongs to someone else, then every solution also belongs to someone else. That leaves a person powerless. The moment responsibility is accepted, personal influence returns. Foolishness avoids responsibility because it protects the ego. Wisdom embraces responsibility because it strengthens the future. One mindset preserves pride, the other creates progress. Another habit that quietly destroys potential is surrounding oneself only with people who constantly agree. Comfort is attractive, but growth rarely happens inside comfort. Honest feedback can feel painful, yet it prevents much greater pain later. Foolish people remove anyone who challenges them. They build circles where criticism is treated as betrayal rather than care. Eventually, they become isolated inside an echo chamber where every poor decision sounds brilliant because nobody dares to question it. The strongest individuals value honest voices more than flattering ones because truth protects far better than compliments ever can. Another sign appears through the obsession with immediate pleasure while ignoring long-term consequences. Human psychology naturally seeks comfort, but maturity requires delaying gratification for something greater. Every meaningful achievement demands patience. Healthy relationships require consistent effort. Financial security requires discipline. Physical health requires repeated choices that are often inconvenient. Foolishness asks only one question: what feels good right now? Wisdom asks a different question: what will still matter years from now? Those two questions lead to completely different lives. Short-term thinking creates long-term regret. Long-term thinking creates lasting freedom. Finally, one of the deepest signs of foolishness is believing personal growth has already ended. The moment someone believes there is nothing left to improve, decline quietly begins. Life constantly changes. Technology evolves, relationships evolve, human understanding evolves. Remaining teachable is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of maturity. The wisest individuals often ask the simplest questions because they never assume they have reached the finish line. Curiosity keeps the mind alive. Pride slowly closes every door that curiosity once opened. Every year provides opportunities to become kinder, calmer, stronger, more disciplined, and more emotionally intelligent, but only if someone remains willing to admit there is still more to learn. The remarkable truth is that foolishness is not permanent. It is a collection of habits, and habits can always be replaced. Every person has displayed foolish behavior at some point. The difference lies in whether those behaviors become temporary lessons or permanent identities. Wisdom begins the moment excuses end. Growth begins the moment blame stops. Transformation begins the moment self-awareness becomes more important than protecting the ego. Every difficult conversation, every painful mistake, every unexpected failure carries a hidden invitation to become a better version of yourself. Those who accept that invitation gradually build resilience, emotional intelligence, and genuine confidence. Those who reject it continue fighting battles created by their own unexamined patterns. In the end, intelligence alone never determines the quality of life. Character does, discipline does, humility does, the willingness to learn does. A person who remains teachable can recover from almost any mistake, while a person who refuses to learn may repeat the same mistake for an entire lifetime without ever realizing that the greatest obstacle was never the world around them, but the mindset they chose to protect instead of improve. The reality that many people refuse to accept is that foolishness often disguises itself as confidence until life exposes the truth. For a while, careless decisions can appear to work. Pride may attract attention, impulsiveness may seem exciting, and stubbornness may look like strength. But time has a unique way of revealing what appearances cannot hide. Every decision compounds, every habit leaves a mark, every repeated choice slowly builds either a stronger character or a weaker one. People often focus on dramatic moments that change a life, yet most lives are shaped by ordinary decisions repeated every single day. Choosing not to listen, choosing not to learn, choosing not to apologize, choosing not to control emotions. These choices seem small when viewed individually, but together they create a future that becomes increasingly difficult to escape. The greatest danger is not making one foolish decision. It is becoming comfortable enough with foolish thinking that it starts feeling normal. Another pattern that quietly limits personal growth is the habit of confusing information with wisdom. Modern life gives people access to endless knowledge, yet knowledge without reflection changes very little. Someone may read hundreds of books, watch countless educational videos, and memorize impressive facts, but if that information never changes daily behavior, it remains entertainment rather than transformation. Wisdom is measured by application, not accumulation. A disciplined individual may know less in theory, but accomplish far more because every lesson becomes action. Foolishness collects ideas simply to sound intelligent, while wisdom uses ideas to become better. The distance between knowing and doing is where many dreams disappear, because potential means nothing without consistent execution. There is also the tendency to underestimate the value of patience. Many people expect extraordinary results from ordinary effort, and when success takes longer than expected, frustration replaces discipline. They abandon meaningful goals just before progress becomes visible. They compare their first chapter to someone else's 20th and conclude that they are incapable. A foolish mindset believes that speed is more important than direction. But life repeatedly proves the opposite. Small improvements practiced consistently over months and years create remarkable outcomes that cannot be achieved through occasional bursts of motivation. Success is rarely built by dramatic moments of inspiration. It is usually built by quiet routines that nobody applauds. The people who appear lucky are often those who remained consistent long after everyone else became distracted. One more revealing sign is the inability to control the tongue. Words spoken in anger can destroy trust that took years to build. A single careless sentence can leave a memory that survives long after an apology has been accepted. Emotionally mature people understand that silence is sometimes the strongest response. They recognize that not every criticism deserves an answer, not every insult requires revenge, and not every opinion deserves attention. Foolishness reacts immediately because it mistakes reaction for strength. Wisdom responds carefully because it understands that self-control is a greater display of power than emotional explosion. The strongest people are not those who win every argument, but those who know which arguments are not worth having in the first place. Perhaps the greatest lesson of all is that becoming wiser is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming more aware. Every day presents countless opportunities to choose humility over arrogance, discipline over comfort, reflection over impulse, and responsibility over excuses. Those choices may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they shape reputation, relationships, opportunities, and inner peace. The person who is willing to examine personal flaws without fear gains something that cannot be bought or borrowed: the freedom to improve. That freedom is the foundation of every meaningful achievement, because real success is not simply measured by what someone owns or what others think of them. It is measured by the quality of decisions they continue to make when nobody is watching, when no applause is guaranteed, and when character alone determines the path forward. One of the most overlooked characteristics of a foolish mind is the inability to separate opinion from fact. The moment a person becomes emotionally attached to an idea, every piece of evidence that challenges it begins to feel like a personal attack. Instead of searching for truth, they begin searching for agreement. Instead of asking better questions, they collect louder voices that repeat what they already believe. This is how growth quietly stops. Intelligence is not measured by how strongly someone holds an opinion, but by how willingly they are prepared to examine it. Every meaningful discovery in human history began because someone was willing to question what everyone else accepted. Yet, the same principle applies to personal development. If someone refuses to question their own habits, assumptions, and reactions, they slowly become trapped inside a reality that becomes smaller every year. The world continues moving forward while their thinking remains frozen in yesterday's certainty. Another sign appears when someone mistakes being busy for being productive. They fill every hour with activity, answer endless messages, attend unnecessary meetings, and constantly tell others how exhausted they are. Yet, when months pass, very little has actually changed. Busyness creates the comforting illusion of progress without delivering meaningful results. A wise individual understands that movement and direction are not the same thing. Running faster in the wrong direction only increases the distance from the destination. Productivity is not about doing more things. It is about doing the right things consistently. Foolishness celebrates effort regardless of outcome, while wisdom carefully evaluates whether today's actions are creating tomorrow's success. Every day offers 24 hours to every person, but what separates extraordinary lives from ordinary ones is not time itself, it is attention. Where attention goes, energy follows. And where energy consistently flows, results eventually appear. There is also a dangerous habit of making promises during moments of excitement and abandoning them during moments of discomfort. Enthusiasm is easy, commitment is rare. Almost anyone can begin a difficult journey when motivation is high, but only disciplined people continue when motivation disappears. A foolish person depends entirely upon feelings. If they feel inspired, they work. If they feel confident, they take action. If they feel discouraged, they quit. This creates an unpredictable life because emotions naturally rise and fall. Wisdom understands that consistency must be stronger than emotion. Discipline continues after excitement fades. Character remains steady even when circumstances become uncertain. The greatest achievements in life are usually earned by people who kept showing up long after the initial excitement disappeared. Another pattern worth noticing is the refusal to prepare for predictable challenges. Many people spend more time worrying than preparing. They imagine problems repeatedly but never build solutions. They fear failure without developing the skills that reduce the chance of failure. Preparation transforms fear into confidence because competence naturally weakens anxiety. The person who studies carefully fears the examination less. The person who trains consistently fears the competition less. The person who develops emotional resilience fears rejection less. Foolishness hopes tomorrow will somehow be easier without changing today's habits. Wisdom accepts that tomorrow becomes easier only because today's preparation was stronger. Relationships also reveal the difference between wisdom and foolishness more clearly than almost anything else. Some people expect loyalty while offering none. They expect understanding while refusing to listen. They expect forgiveness while never admitting mistakes. They demand honesty while becoming angry whenever they hear an uncomfortable truth. Every relationship becomes a mirror, reflecting the qualities that each person consistently brings into it. Respect cannot survive where selfishness dominates. Trust cannot survive where deception becomes normal. Peace cannot survive where pride refuses compromise. The foolish individual continues asking why relationships keep failing without recognizing the common pattern connecting every disappointment. Growth begins when attention shifts from changing others to improving personal character. There is another quiet habit that deserves attention: the constant search for shortcuts. Modern culture often celebrates overnight success, instant wealth, effortless influence, and immediate transformation. Yet the strongest foundations are almost always built slowly. Skills require repetition, confidence requires experience, wisdom requires reflection, character requires countless ordinary choices made correctly over many years. A shortcut may save time today while creating larger problems tomorrow. Those who avoid the process rarely develop the strength needed to protect the result. Success achieved without discipline often disappears just as quickly because the habits necessary to maintain it were never developed. The journey itself prepares people for the destination, and anyone attempting to escape the journey usually arrives unprepared for the responsibilities that follow. Perhaps one of the greatest misconceptions is believing that happiness comes from controlling everything outside yourself. Reality constantly reminds us that circumstances change without permission. Markets rise and fall, relationships begin and end. Opportunities appear unexpectedly and disappear just as quickly. Health, reputation, and comfort can all change within a single season of life. The person who depends entirely upon external stability will always feel anxious because the external world never remains stable for long. Wisdom shifts attention toward what can actually be controlled: thoughts, choices, habits, reactions, discipline, integrity, and effort. These internal qualities remain available regardless of external circumstances. The foolish mind fights reality itself, demanding certainty from a world that has never promised it. The wise mind learns to become steady even when life refuses to be predictable. Every generation believes it possesses enough knowledge to avoid the mistakes of the previous one. Yet history repeats itself because human nature changes far more slowly than technology. Pride still blinds, greed still tempts, anger still destroys judgment. Envy still poisons gratitude. Fear still prevents action. These timeless weaknesses affect every person unless they are consciously managed. Recognizing them is not a sign of pessimism, it is a sign of maturity. The strongest individuals are not those who pretend to have no weaknesses. They are those who understand exactly where their weaknesses exist and build habits that prevent those weaknesses from taking control. Self-awareness is one of the greatest forms of protection because it allows someone to correct a mistake before that mistake grows large enough to control an entire life. The remarkable thing about wisdom is that it rarely announces itself with dramatic speeches or impressive displays. It appears quietly through patience when everyone else is rushing, through humility when others are seeking attention, through calm decisions when emotions are running high, and through consistent integrity when shortcuts seem easier. These qualities may not attract immediate applause, but they earn something far more valuable over time: trust, respect, inner peace, and lasting influence. Those rewards cannot be purchased, borrowed, or inherited. They are built choice by choice, day after day, until character becomes stronger than temptation and purpose becomes stronger than distraction. Before judging anyone else, take a moment to examine your own decisions, because the greatest victory in life is not proving that others are wrong. It is having the courage to correct yourself. Foolishness is not a permanent identity. It is a temporary mindset that survives only when it goes unchallenged. The moment you choose humility over ego, discipline over excuses, patience over impulse, and truth over comfort, your life begins to move in a different direction. Remember, every successful person has made mistakes, but not every person has been willing to learn from them. That is the difference. Your future will never be determined by the intelligence you were born with. It will always be shaped by the choices you make when nobody is watching. So leave behind the habits that weaken your character, embrace the lessons that strengthen your mind, and become the kind of person whose actions speak louder than opinions. Because in the end, wisdom is not about knowing everything. It is about never believing that you have nothing left to learn. The person who remains teachable will continue to rise, while the person who refuses to change will eventually be left behind by a world that never stops moving. Choose growth, choose responsibility, choose self-respect, and let every decision from this day forward become proof that your greatest transformation began the moment you decided to master yourself instead of trying to master everyone else.